This is a Psion Organiser 2 USB adapter. Well, it sort of is. So we've got a ROM here which loads normal ComsLink programs, or ROM images. The ROM is actually a lot larger than the ROM image size, which is 32K on the top slot. This can actually hold 8 images, so there's a few jumpers here to select different images within the ROM. Some other chips. There's a DC-DC converter here which converts the 5 volts coming in from the USB into 10.4, which then goes into the VB through a diode on the top slot, so you can power the organiser from this device. And there's a latch here which enables the organiser to set the hardware up to talk to the serial to USB chip, which is here. Now this board was laid out and it's based on another USB adapter which you can't get hold of at the moment, and the design is completely different really. It's not a copy, it's a different design but based on the same ideas, so it's very similar. So I've tested this and I can't get the ROM working at the moment, which is a bit irritating, but if I load the comms software from a data pack and run this hardware, it does all work. If I plug the USB in here, you can see that light comes on and this generates the correct voltage. If I plug that in this organiser that's got no battery in it, then you can use it as a USB power supply. The USB to serial works as well, but as you can see the ROM does not load. It's not happy. So I'm going to have a go at sorting that out. I think I know what the problem is now. And I'm going to try sorting that out. Along the way I actually built myself that, which is a top slot hardware Arduino shield. So you can plug it into an Arduino Uno, and if you plug your top slot hardware into here like so, then what you can do is you can actually wiggle all the lines up and down on the top slot, which in this case gave me access to the ROM, so I could have a look and see that at least the first 32 bytes or so of the ROM was actually correct. So fundamentally it's working. So I'm going to use that to, well, I did use that to have a look and see what the problem was with the ROM, which I think I've sorted. So I'm going to take this ROM off and put another image on because the image was wrong, and hopefully then the ComsLink code will load from there and the whole thing will work. Okay, so I've replaced the ROM on this card because the image I had, which was actually in this chip, I need to clean that up, there's a lot of solder on it. That image wasn't correct because I've got a script that I wrote to convert OPK files into binary files, and also pad them out and make them 32K long so that I can concatenate them, blocks of 8 of them, and create images to program in here. Unfortunately, end of line translation was on, so all the hex A bytes were turned into hex D, and all the hex D bytes were turned into hex AD. So needless to say, that caused a bit of chaos with the code that was trying to be loaded. So there wasn't actually anything wrong with the PCB in terms of the ROM decode. Well, having said that, there was. I've had to connect the program pin to 5 volts, so that's a modification that I'll put on the PCB. The other problem I had with this was the USB. I actually had the positive going to the negative and the negative going to the positive on the USB data lines, which is a bit of a problem. That means that it doesn't work. So once I've swapped that over, that was fine. I'm running a serial terminal here from the Arduino IDE, so we can see what's going on. If I turn this on now, and this is now being powered from USB, it's not actually got a battery in it, and hit the on key, we do not get an error. and we do get the comms menu. So the image I'm using here is 4.2, so that's the latest image, but I do have all the other images that I could find in there, so if you want to run a different image, that's not a problem. And if we go into the terminal, and you can see when I type AAA, that's appearing over on the terminal, and also the red LED there is flickering every time I type a character. If I send something back from the terminal emulator here, let's do that and send it. You can see there's a big flash on the green there, and the data comes up here, so I think that's working. So I need to do another board because this one's got problems, and the USB being inverted means that's a very fiddly fix there. This one here I can just put a blob of solder on the ROM, which is what I've done here. But this swapping the plus and minus, positive and negative data lines here is tricky, so I'm going to do another board. I don't think there's anything else really that needs doing. I was wondering about putting this in a socket, but I'm not too sure about that given the size of the socket. It's quite high. That's the one that I use, that's an adapter I use to program with. I'll see if I can find some smaller ones. I did have some more sockets somewhere, but that may not really be possible given the size of the thing. That would let you put different ROM images in the ROM, so you could have a board that didn't have any of the USB to serial and just had a ROM on it, and you could then by wiring the jumpers up you could actually have a switch somewhere which selected different ROM images, but I don't know how useful that would be really, and it might be, might not. You could also, this board is in a similar way to the original comms link, it is a sort of basis for other adapters or interfaces, because if you replace this chip here, that one there just above the ROM, that's the serial to USB chip. If you replace that with something else, serial to I2C if such a thing exists, serial to Bluetooth module, anything, then the whole thing really just works, and the comms link code doesn't really know what it's talking to on the other side of the serial lines. So everything's sort of happy, and that's the way this works. It is really a comms link where the MAX 232 chip's been replaced by this FT231. So that's all it is really, plus a power supply over here so that you can run it off the 5 volts. Obviously you have problems. Bluetooth, for instance, there is no power supply with that, so you're going to need some way of powering the Bluetooth module. I went through that in the earlier video. But anyway, I'm going to definitely fix the problems on this, and needs a little bit more testing. There's DTR lines and things on here which I think maybe are accessible over the Bluetooth, USB link. So I'll see whether that's working. Trying to test all the hardware. But there we go, that is now finally working. Took a while to get that ROM image right, but I think we're there now. Actually, can't actually see anything there on the screen after. Now the contrast's up maximum, you can just see what's going on. I'll send some more stuff over, why not? Send some rubbish over. There you go, so this is just text being sent over. I need to check that file transfers work and everything, but pretty sure it does, and stuff going back from the organiser. So it's definitely able to send and receive USB traffic. So the adapter PCB also fits in a comms link case. Let's guess I won't get it open. I think that's just clicked together, isn't it? So it sort of fits in there quite nicely. Unfortunately these are a little bit shorter than the original, so there might be a problem there, but it's difficult to buy the long 2x8 right angle pin connectors. Unfortunately I've put that hole in the wrong place. You can see it's too far that way, which means that it isn't going to be able to be screwed into there, but it does still fit. You have to cut away here I think that's the cable outlet. You have to cut that away in order to get the USB socket to fit, and I think, yeah, so the that's where the screw hole goes there, where I've got that ground connection. So yeah, it does fit in there. You have to drill a hole here for the LED, but it looks okay. You could blank that off maybe with something, or maybe put a plate over there. Looks like it's designed for a plate or something. But anyway, it does fit, apart from this hole here which I need to change. So a bit of mechanical change is needed as well.